All right, I'm working on that model dragon. Time to start painting that thing. Hey folks, Dave here. In a previous episode, I printed off this massive dragon here, and now it's time to paint it up and get it all ready to go to put in front of my camera and make some photography magic. So one of the issues I'm going to have with painting this model is that it is huge. And normally I would just kind of take the dragon off the base and then spray paint him up outside, let it dry, and then go on from there. But because of its size, I'm a little worried about just having this model sitting somewhere without being on its proper base. So I ended up printing off a second base here using my filament printer, and I'm going to be transferring this dragon from its base to this new base in order to spray paint the first base and have everything still maintained nice and secure. So I'm going to do that off camera, and I'll be right back with a freshly spray painted, primed base. So we'll start off with a gray coat covering everything. And then I went to a series of inks and washes: Agrax Earthshade, Sienna, Burnt Sienna, Raw Umber, Burnt Umber, because I really like those earth tone effects. And I dry brushed in some white to bring out some of the details. Then when all the dirt was done, I decided to use brighter purples, reds, and blues to add some color to the crystals. Then I took it outside for a matte spray coat. As a final step, I added a high gloss clear coat to the crystals just to give it that shiny effect. Then I was done. And with the base done, it's time to move on to painting the dragon. So the first step in painting this thing is figuring out exactly what color scheme I want to use. It turns out that mythical creatures don't have set color schemes. Odd, I know, right? So I needed to figure out what type of colors to use. So I started doing a Google search of all the different types of dragons. I looked at some recreations of Fafnir, which this dragon is, and I looked at Game of Thrones, Smaug from The Hobbit, Dungeons and dragons, and some other dragons from other fantasy worlds, just to give an idea of what others have painted their dragons. So the thing that catches my eye most is the brown dragon with the red highlights from Game of Thrones. I really don't know exactly what the final look is going to be, but I think I'll iterate by starting with covering us with the brown and then adding highlights and just going from there. And to add that base coat of brown over everything, I'm going to use my airbrush. So let's get to it. It's done, and I'm actually quite pleased with it. The paint job is more complex than I've done previously, but I think it turned out very well. There's a few rough spots here and there, especially in some spots where I didn't clean up the 3D printer supports enough, so there's a little bit bumps here and there. It may just look like roughness in the dragon's skin if you weren't in the know, but now you're in the know, so now you know it's a mistake. But that's okay. I build these models to become models for photography, not just to be shelf candy. All these little imperfections will either add character to that photo or I'll fix it in Photoshop, because that's what Photoshop is for. So I'm not too worried about it, and it's going to look great on my shelf. But for now, it's time to get this thing in front of my camera. So I'm going to pop this over to where my camera is and then set up a shot or two and then go from there. Come, little dragon, fly away! So the camera setup is pretty basic for what I do. I have a nice background displayed on the monitor, and then the dragon sitting in front of it. I have several lights shining on this dragon. So one light in the back to light up his wing, a couple of lights to bring out the details on his head, and then one light in the front just to lighten up the whole front of the body. I have the camera down a little bit low just to shoot up so it's more dramatic and imposing. And then as a final touch, with the smoke machine, I can add smoke into the scene to create a nice atmosphere. And then I take many shots with the smoke. And then in Photoshop, I'll merge them all together, add some ambiance and some texturing, and we're done. So that's my dragon. It was quite an adventure building this dragon. I had a lot of problems initially with the 3D printer issues, but it ended up looking great on a shelf. It looks fantastic in front of a camera. So I'm really pleased, and I can't really ask for much more than that. So I'm going to call this done. Thank you for following along. If you like what you see here, please hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.